Hello and good morning, everybody. I'm Wendy Dietzler, Director of Education and Events for Trade Press Media Group. I want to first of all thank you for joining today's webcast, Healthy Schools, a Cleaning Primer. So let me introduce our speaker. It's Sharon Boyd, and she actually is a recent Bachelor of Science degree earner in Human Resource Management. But beyond that, she has more than 30 years of leadership experience. This new Bachelor of Science degree came from her decision to further her education and even now is working towards a Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership from Regent University. Lots of interesting things there, but she's going to be speaking mostly to Healthy Schools, a Cleaning Primer. And that comes from her role as a leader and that driving force behind her aspiration to support others along their leadership journey. Her goal is to become a national speaker, along with working on training and developing others to lead through positive influence and service. She currently is not just working through those pieces, but as you can see, she is the supervisor of custodial services in the largest public school system in Virginia. So she really has a real blend of skills that we're excited to bring her to the table. And she is a sight for sore eyes. Sharon, were your ears ringing? We were just talking about you.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
Great. What we're going to do now is talk about the learning objectives for today's webcast. And there are 3 of them. We're going to review key methods and technologies that target those high touch areas and reduce the spread of germs. We're going to assess strategies like ventilation and filtration to enhance indoor air quality. And we're going to evaluate those cleaning products and procedures that really help protect the health of people and the environment in these environments. So we're going to also cover a couple housekeeping details. We talked about the technology that we're using here today. And before we do that, we're going to thank our sponsors today, Tork, a brand of Essity, and Optizolve, a precision cleaning technology. They are the ones who've made today's event possible, and we thank them for their support. And in addition, at the conclusion of today's webcast, you're going to receive a link to a brief online assessment, which you can complete and earn CEUs and a CEU certificate for that activity. And we're going to also house and archive today's webcast at cleanlink.com/webcasts. All right, I think we are up, we are running, and Sharon, the stage is yours. Please take it away.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say hello to everyone and thank you for being so patient. But we are going to be talking a little bit about Healthy Schools, a Cleaning Primer, which is really the heart of what we do. And so with that, we're going to talk about what does health focused cleaning mean? When we hear that terminology, I know we've heard it a lot lately within the last 10 years and even more so after COVID. But what does that really mean? So when we look at the definition, we see health-focused cleaning refers to a cleaning approach that prioritizes hygiene and wellness by thoroughly sanitizing and disinfecting surfaces to eliminate germs, bacteria, and other pathogens, focusing on the removal of potential disease-causing microorganisms rather than just surface appearance. That's extremely important, especially in healthcare settings where vulnerable individuals may be present. It often involves using environmentally friendly cleaning products and practices to minimize health risks to occupants. So when we look at, the health-focused cleaning, a lot of times we've always only thought about the clinical spaces, hospitals, medical offices. But we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about what does that look in our arena. Okay, so some of the key aspects of health-focused cleaning are beyond aesthetics, proper disinfection, color-coded cleaning, green cleaning, comprehensive cleaning practices. And then where is health-focused cleaning most important? Remember we first initially said healthcare facilities. We didn't mention childcare facilities, but it's important in childcare facilities. But you also see schools and public spaces. So yes, health-focused cleaning is extremely important in schools and public spaces. When we look at the beyond aesthetics, what does that really mean? Okay. And that goes beyond just making sure that the surfaces look clean and focuses on eliminating harmful microorganisms. And as we know, microorganisms are those germs that we just can't see. Okay. So with that, that's a lot of where like different bacteria, germs are on the surfaces contain, different things that will make us ill, like when we have a stomach flu or we see the flu going around or different things like that. So it's extremely important that we're disinfecting and wiping down those surfaces. And as we talk about that, what about proper disinfection? That utilizes appropriate disinfections to kill germs effectively. When we're looking at proper disinfection, and one thing that came out like when we had the pandemic is, were we disinfecting correctly? Did we have the proper disinfection, chemical? And we found out that we did not in some instances. And a lot of us were scrambling, trying to make sure that we had the right chemical with the right efficacy that was going to actually be able to kill, that germ, so that the spread of COVID would stop or decrease. It didn't stop, but we decreased it. Then we have our color coded cleaning. That one is extremely important, because it eliminates your cross contamination. So, like if you're using microfiber cleaning cloths, they come in very various different colors. So you have yellow, green, orange, black, white, red, and blue. And with those different colors, you don't want to use the same color. For an example, if you're cleaning a toilet seat, I don't want to use that same cloth that I'm using, to clean that toilet seat to go over and clean the sink where people are going to be putting their hands and stuff on. Same thing if I'm using a red cleaning cloth in the restroom and I've just cleaned the toilets and the urinals, I definitely don't want to be able to go in and see like inside of a classroom or on a table that you've used the same cloth. So you've got to be very, very careful because you got to think about in the bathrooms, what are we cleaning in there? And I know as far as I'm concerned, I would never want to go in and eat in a cafeteria that I just knew that you just cleaned urine and feces up with. When we talk about it, it sounds disgusting. And just think of the people that are really trusting us to clean properly, that how important that color coded cleaning system is. Another one is green cleaning products. What products are we using that, as we're looking at health focused cleaning, are not just good for the environment, but also good for our health? We have a lot of people that have maybe asthma, other respiratory diseases, and things that are going on. So we do have to be very careful in the type of products that we're using. And when you look at green cleaning, they're environmentally friendly, and they're chemicals that we use, and they have minimal health risk. We've all seen, sometimes we'll go to like some of the shows, and some of the vendors or partners that are out there, they've even gotten to the point where sometimes they drink them. And I'm like, I don't know if I would necessarily do that, but I have witnessed, a lot of different people just, even saying, hey, it's, friendly enough that I can drink it. And then what about the comprehensive cleaning practices? So when you look at that, it's very important because that's what's going to really get those areas that are not just visible, but what about the invisible or the parts that we cannot see? So if you're having those cleaning practices that you're teaching to that practice and to that standard, you're going to basically be able to eliminate those different things that come up that we can't see. If I get in a habit of making sure that I'm wiping off the whole entire table and not just a portion of it, and I'm using the right chemical, that's going to be part of those practices. And not even to mention not just the wiping and what I'm doing, but how often, excuse me, am I doing it? What is my frequency? And being able to clean that surface. If I only clean that surface once a year, think of our students' desk. Heaven forbid if we just cleaned it once a year. No telling what would be spread all over that school. So that schedule and the frequency and the practices are very important. So let's talk a little bit about the health focus, cleaning. What is most important? Where is it most important? We automatically know healthcare facilities when we go to the doctor, the clinic, the nurses station at school, the clinic at school, and we want to make sure that those are clean, and definitely our child care centers. But also our schools and public spaces are just as important. Our schools, we have so much traffic in the schools, and that's why it just makes it extremely important because there's so many people that utilize our schools. And I mean, think of some of the schools, some of our high schools. We can have traffic up to 5,000 a day that are coming in there and they're going in all different locations, different places, touching different things with different germs. And so it is going to be very important and just as essential as we look at our schools and our public spaces. And we are talking here, especially like in our public spaces. I have a slide up here that gives you just some pictures of our high touch areas. And of course, we see our desk. In the middle, we see our sinks. We see our light fixtures, even the computer. Think about it. How often do different people use the keyboard? Okay, so yes, we do need to make sure that our keyboards are cleaned. You know, I don't see a picture of it up here. I didn't include it, but even our cell phones. Now we're doing a lot on our cell phones. The children, the students are doing a lot on their cell phones, their iPads, their Chromebooks. So we want to make sure that, not only are we disinfecting on our end, but we may be able to have some teachable moments with the students as we're teaching the students, or even the teachers. Look at the stairwell over there. I know with me, I have to use that handrail every single time, and I'm a slider, so I actually slide my hand down the handrail. So it is very important that we are also disinfecting our handrails, okay? So as we move forward, we're going to talk about some of the technologies for health focused cleaning. And this is like a really, I'm not going to say overly new because technologies are just becoming more and more prevalent in the industry. And I've been in the cleaning industry for almost 40 years. And that's one thing I've had to brush up on is just the different types of technologies that are being introduced into the cleaning industry. So as we see growth in other areas, we're seeing just as much growth in the cleaning industry. So technologies, designed to target high touch areas and minimize germ spread in schools include our electrostatic sprayers, ultraviolet light disinfection systems, antimicrobial surface coatings, touchless fixtures like faucets and door handles, HEPA filtration systems, mobile air purifiers, and automated cleaning machines that can thoroughly disinfect surfaces like our desks, doorknobs, light switches, and especially in high traffic areas, as we saw in the pictures before, significantly reducing the risk of infection for students and staff and us. We are staff. Okay. So as we look at that, you know, you want to look at what are, some of the key points, in the technology. What are some things that have come out? One thing that all of us are very familiar with is electrostatic sprayers. Before COVID, before the pandemic, I can't recall that I really used them, but afterwards, I mean, that's like our right hand friend now. We use them for any kind of outbreak in our school district. When we're partnering with the nurses and the attendance is going low, say on a hallway, we'll pull those electrostatic sprayers out, just to disinfect that area and do a little bit more to combat whatever that germ is in the air. So with the electrostatic sprayers, those are the devices, and I'm sure if you guys have seen them, it's not like the sprayer or like the bottles that we use. It actually is a very thin mist. And what it does is it envelops around that object or that surface. So the whole entire surface is covered. Okay. Then we have our UVC light disinfection. And basically that kills bacteria and viruses on surfaces by disrupting their DNA, providing a continuous disinfection method for classrooms and common areas. And I have seen some school systems use those, and I've seen a lot of churches use them also. So the UVC light disinfection, I've actually seen that used, and it does seem to be effective. Then we have our antimicrobial coatings. And what that is a coating that is applied on the touch surfaces like your doorknobs, your tabletops, your chair arms, and it sort of can inhibit the growth of bacteria and viruses for an extended amount of time. And then touchless fixtures. I'm sure all of us are familiar with those as we have to put the batteries in them or either they're electrically ran, such as our soap dispensers, our paper towel dispensers. And we even have, the faucets that are touchless. You know, it's grown more in the school system, but it's something you see quite regularly, like in the medical areas. But you're seeing a lot of it now, especially past COVID, where we're seeing a lot of touchless fixtures. You go to wash your hands, put your hands up under it, the water runs by itself, by a little light that shows that you're up there. And then when you move your hand, the water turns off. Go to the paper towels, and then you could just put your hand under it. The paper towel automatically disperses. So those are some of the different touchless fixtures. There's even touchless fixtures like with your urinals and with your toilets, where you can go up, stand, use it, move away from it, and it automatically flushes without having to touch it. Next, you have your HEPA filtration system, which are very, very, very important. So your HEPA filtration, let's go back to what HEPA stands for. So HEPA is your high efficiency particulate air. And these are filters. And basically what they do is they capture some of the microorganisms and things that are in the air. So that is why it's really important. And a lot of times when I'm teaching, especially about vacuuming, and we have our HEPA filters, I try to explain and teach to the point with the custodial teams how important it is not just to go in and maybe vacuum that one spot that you see, but try occasionally to go in and vacuum from wall to wall, because that HEPA filter is basically going to magnetize or bring in the different microorganisms, excuse me, that are in the air, and it's going to capture it in there. And it's just another kind of way of filtering out the air and to make it a cleaner environment. And then we have our mobile air purifiers. Okay, and with the mobile air purifier, of course, that is portable, and it also can be used with a HEPA filter. And in specific areas, and what it does is reduce airborne contaminants. So again, let's move over to the important considerations. So as we're looking at some of the important considerations, regular cleaning and disinfecting protocols. We went over that a few times, but it just shows how important it is that whenever we're looking at cleaning for health, we have to have a standard. We have to have a schedule. We need to have a list, and it needs to be regular cleaning. And then proper training. That is so crucial. If we're not training our staff to the expectations or how to use the technology, how to use the chemical, how to read an SDS, they're not going to know. We can't just assume, when someone comes in that they know. And then we also can't make the assumption that when they come in, they know our way of doing it. So you always want to take the opportunity. And I've had someone along the way, it was really funny, that said to me, that you have to teach like 3 times, like within a certain amount of time for a person to really get it. So remembering that sometimes when you teach and you got your first time staff coming in and they're in their orientation and they're in their first few weeks of training, that it may go away. So it's really important that you teach and you continue to teach and you continue to learn. Tie into those resources, such as CleanLink, that's going to be able to give you the information, give you the training, attach you, to those resources, network, so then that way you get the information to know how to clean, and create a healthy environment. And then compliance with sanitation guidelines. We all know OSHA, and so we know that OSHA has guidelines. They're just not the people that come out there to bug us. They're coming out because it's so important that we're doing things correctly, for the public, for the environment that we're servicing. We don't want to just go in and say we're cleaning and we're not compliant because we're cleaning, say, with water. We're not killing anything, even though we're saying that that's what we're doing. So it's really important that we're compliant. That if that particular disinfectant says that it's going to dwell or stay on that surface soaked for 7 minutes, are we really doing that part? Or are we just spraying and wiping? So we do want to make sure that we're compliant. What are some other ways that we can make sure that we're compliant? We can do our inspections. Inspections are so essential. Inspection starts with ourselves. What are we doing to ensure that we are compliant? As leaders, what are we doing as leaders to ensure that our staff is compliant? I use a what's called Orange QC, to do our inspections. We can visually take pictures. There's things that we can do on this end, and it helps us stay in compliance and to see if there's something, that maybe we need to do a little bit more training and development on. Okay. In here, I put this in because I thought it was very interesting, just to see how exactly does an electrostatic sprayer work. And if you see right there, there's a chair. And as I said, just like when you're spraying it, there's little droplets that come out and it actually envelops. And you see me putting my hand up, it envelops around the entire chair. So if you're using like a 32-ounce spray bottle and you're spraying that chair, you're only going to get that front surface that you touched, okay? And that's visible. But if you're using an electric static sprayer, it's going to go over the whole entire chair, and it sort of kind of makes like an envelope. So like if you have a letter and you're taking that letter and you put it inside an envelope, you close the envelope up, then it's enclosed. It's wrapped around the entire letter. That's what the electrostatic sprayer does. And so the particles charge and it allows them to attract a little bit more like a magnet. And so it stays on that surface and it gets areas that we really can't get, if we're just spraying it with a 32-ounce sprayer. Okay. Up on the right-hand corner, you can see someone that is actually using an electrostatic sprayer there. They're very simple to use. When you're using them, you put your disinfectant in and you just do a sweep motion, and you don't have to like spray real hard on the area, but they're very, very easy to use and they're very easy to go from classroom to classroom. And other areas is where you may notice like an increase in illness or, something to that effect. Or say if the nurse has contacted you, said, hey, we've got a flu bug, we've got a stomach bug, I would definitely get on top of that, pull your electrostatic sprayers out and just treat that area, just to do your best to try to help and support whatever illness it is, so that way you can get the attendance back up in that location and lessen any kind of illnesses. So as we're talking about, the air quality or improving the health, one thing that we all do, and it's inevitable, we all breathe in, we all breathe out. Okay. So I am definitely, it's my heart, I would say, to want to be able to breathe good air. I mean, we don't want to go somewhere and you don't know what it is that you're breathing in. Okay. And if you think about it, if I sneeze in the air, those particles are going to go all over the place. Or if there's smoke, I'm going to inhale that, or if the filters aren't changed, that's different things that can affect the air quality. So when you talk about your indoor air quality, or as most of us know it as IAQ, it can significantly impact our health and well-being. Here are some effective strategies for improving IAQ. So on the list, I have ventilation, filtration, source control, air disinfection, and humidity control. Other measures that we may look at that we don't think of quite often, indoor plants, which can absorb pollutants, and improve air quality. You also want to clean your home regularly, paying attention to dust, dirt, and pet hair. Those are germ carriers. I would encourage you to look a little bit deeper into what is in dust. You would be surprised at what is in dust and why it is so important to dust in the areas, dust the surfaces to ensure, because those are germ carriers that you're not, you know, contributing to what's in that air because we're not dusting those surfaces on a regular scheduled basis. Remember, we talked about the regular schedules earlier. And then considering using an air quality monitor to track indoor air levels and identify potential problems. So let's go over here back to the left side. So we have ventilation. So when you're looking at ventilation, what are we talking about with ventilation? Back, I'm going to say, not going to say too much because you know how old I am, but when I first started in the cleaning industry, and we really didn't have the HVAC like we have now that pulls the air in, circulates it, and the air goes back out. We used to open during spring break or during some of the times where the students weren't there, we would open the windows on the first hall, then open the windows on the back hall. And what that did was it generated that airflow of in, take the air out, and bring fresh air in, take the air out. So it sort of kind of made our own little cyclone. And I do that at home, and that helps me with the ventilation at home. Okay. And some of the things that you can also use, you can use your exhaust fans, like what we have in our bathrooms, your fans in your kitchens. Very important if you're like me and you burn food all the time. I always have to have that exhaust fan on because nobody wants to smell that air that I've produced after I can't cook something. In our bathrooms and laundry rooms to remove moisture and, again, other things in the air. And then let's go to filtration. What exactly is filtration? That's like your air filters, that we see our HVAC teams. They're coming in and they're changing them. And they usually change them depending on the date. They can be 3 months, they can be 6 months. There's even some that are 1 month, just depending on the type of air filter that you're using. And you have portable air purifiers need to be changed regularly. Then we have source control. So source control is basically a way of eliminating or reducing sources of indoor air pollution such as smoking, cooking fumes, and pet dander. Okay. I know just recently I went over to a friend's house and they had like a little machine. And I'm like, well, what is that for? And she said, it's an air purifier. And she said that she got it when COVID came around, but she said she also notices that it helps with her pet dander. And I said, that's interesting. So I'm thinking on getting something like that at home. And so also we have air disinfection. How do you disinfect air? Okay. And that's where maybe some of the things like our ultraviolet lights come in, our air purifiers to kill airborne bacteria and other viruses. And then humidity control, maintaining indoor humidity level between 30 to 50% to prevent mold growth and reduce allergens. We do have someone that works here in our school system, and we actually have someone that is a specialist in that. So she does go around and she checks all those things, humidity control. She checks the mold. She does all of that, and she's very much appreciative because she sort of gets it before it becomes really big. So we do appreciate her being on the team with us as she goes through it, and that helps us with our indoor air quality. And you can also use a dehumidifier if necessary, which we do use those quite often in our school district. If anybody asks for one, we just take it out, and we basically, the custodial team, will check the filters and make sure that we're changing those filters and just keep control and making sure that they stay on. We talked about some of the other measures, indoor plants. With that one, I just started using that. I'm not a green thumb person, but when I started just doing some research and I found out how good they are, I've started putting more indoor plants, which can help, me with my indoor air quality at home. And even here within our office, we have plants here. And we have someone that takes care of them because, again, I am not good at air. I can clean real good, but don't give me a plant. They'll tell you I'll kill it all the time. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is sustainability. One thing that we have talked about quite often, and you hear it all the time. I remember when I first interviewed here for Newport News Public Schools, and I was asked the question, what are some sustainable practices or things that you're going to do as you manage the department? So that was something that is really, really big as we're looking at things that are environmentally friendly. So basically, when you're looking at sustainable cleaning practices, you're looking at things that are environmentally friendly, cleaning methods such as using non-toxic products, reducing water usage, and reusing cleaning tools. So again, the microfiber, we'll go back to the microfiber cleaning cloths. Those are really good because you can launder them, you can use them over, which means that they're environmentally friendly. Okay, they reduce water usage. So on here, we're hitting like all of the points when we're using the microfiber cloths. You also have microfiber mops that you can use. Okay, there's different products that you can use. What are some of the different types of technology and equipment? We have a lot of new equipment that's out there that's eco-friendly, that doesn't use as much water, when we're cleaning as we used to use, and it still cleans better, actually, to me, than what we've used in the past. What tools can we use, to ensure that we're following sustainable cleaning practices? And what other practices? One thing that I have down here, and I'm going to point it out again because I think it's really, really important, is using quality materials like microfiber cloth instead of a disposable paper tissue or towel is very simple and convenient change to practices that preserve the sustainable cleaning process. More importantly, good quality utensils and cleaning cloths make the cleaning process more effective and efficient. When you're using microfibers, it also cleans a lot better. So you're picking up some of those microorganisms that we say that we can't see, or it's a paper towel, but not necessarily get it. Okay, so again, I really want to reiterate the use and how effective using microfiber cleaning cloths, mops, are very efficient. You have your flat mops, you have your string mops, or the different, you even have microfiber dust mops. And they're really, really good and really, really efficient. So some of the products, if we're looking at our products, what are some products that we can use? You want to look at things that are eco-friendly, biodegradable, non-toxic cleaning material, products. What does the SDS say? What does the label say? Take the time to read those when you're looking to see what are we going to use in our school district. Do some research. When you utilize, I don't say vendors, your partners, ask them, this chemical that you're wanting to sell or have us use in our school, what is the background? What type of product is it? Is it eco-friendly? Is it sustainable? Give me the history. The vendors and the partners that we use, they do the research and just ask those questions, before you just go and purchase something. Is it going to be sustainable for our school district? If it's sustainable for your school district, it's sustainable for the economy, is it sustainable for the environment that you live in? And that could be the city. If you work in the schools in the city that you live in, you're going to want to have an environmentally friendly atmosphere. And then make your own cleaning solutions, with common household ingredients. Okay. And sometimes I've heard of people, doing that. I'm not too keen on it, but I do, sometimes when I'm at home, I will use vinegar. And with that, it has shown to be a very good cleaning product, but I don't necessarily use it in the schools, but I do use it at home. And choose zero waste cleaners with reusable, recyclable, or combustible packaging. And I said combustible, but it was compostable. Water usage. Use concentrated cleaning solutions that require less water. Using your chemical management systems works wonders because it actually is going to measure out the chemical use. You're not having to measure it. And that is something that has been to me like the best thing that they've come up in the cleaning industry is a chemical management systems that actually will measure the chemical for you. So you're not having to, go and get the measuring cup and trying to see it and trying to match it, and doing that, math over here that we said, oh, when we went to school, we're never going to have to use math, So with that, if you use the, chemical management systems that are out there, it does make it a little bit better. It's better user friendly. And that way you can make sure that, when you're looking at introducing any type of chemical into the environment, it's friendly and it's mixed correctly. Some of the things also that you also want to look for is washing with cold water to save energy. So when we go back to the microfiber cleaning cloths, you do not wash those in hot water. You don't want to, and you want to be careful that you're following. It should be warm water. And then also when you're drying it, you don't dry it with heat. So follow the manufacturer's um, directions on how it is to use those. And when you're washing, when you're cleaning, if you have to clean anything, try to get the detergents that will use cold water. And then that way, that's another way, of being sustainable, using sustainable cleaning practices. Another type of tool is reducing waste by reusing cleaning tools instead of throwing them away. Okay. So again, when we look at a lot of us use like a Kaivac cleaning machine and or either Omniflex. So when we used to clean up bio waste, we would have to take all of that material and throw it in the trash. So if you're cleaning up now, and you're using that type of new technology, that type of new tool, type of equipment, all you have to do is disinfect the rubber tools or the rubber squeegee, and you don't have to throw it away. So again, that's something that you can use over and over again without having to, crowd up our recycling cans outside either, okay, and our waste. And using energy efficient cleaning equipment, like again, your HEPA filter vacuums and energy saving floor scrubbers. And when you look at your disposal, dispose of cleaning products responsibly to prevent environmental contamination and recycling whenever possible. Some of the other things that you want to look at again is protect your indoor air quality, which we talked about before, which also adds to your sustainable cleaning practices, and avoid chemicals that are toxic to the earth and to us. Implement practices that reduce waste and pollution. And you can also hire, even though if we're working, but I know some people on here may be contractors. So you want to hire people that are actually, have the same thought process as you. So you don't want to hire a vendor or utilize a vendor or partner with a vendor that doesn't have the same thoughts, that doesn't have the same vested interest as you do. And I'm very clear that when I'm working with the vendor, and I always tell them, well, you're not vendors. I don't usually like to use that word. I call them partners, because when they come in and we're working together, they have to have the same vested interest as I do, and that our team does, the staff does, in what it is that we're doing for the school district. And we do it as a partnership. And so that's one thing that's very important to me. So as we go forward, one thing that is important and something that I had to do a little bit of digging into is what is the difference between sustainable, eco-friendly, and green cleaning. So on this slide, I've sort of broke it down a little bit just to give the difference. And I was amazed at what I came up with here. It says, we've mentioned how sustainable cleaning is something of a buzzword in the industry. It's accompanied by similar phrases like green cleaning, eco-friendly cleaning, which are not specifically included in standards or recognized by regulatory bodies. They're effective marketing items. I'll say it again. They are effective marketing items. Green cleaning, for instance, refers to a product or service being a healthy choice or somehow beneficial to the person or planet. Yet, without a more specific and factual explanation, it remains an ambiguous claim. Eco-friendly. This term is equally vague, but implies a better choice that is kinder to the environment and has a reduced impact. Non-toxic. This can refer to a product not containing anything linked to damaging health effects, but is not regulated and therefore can't be considered a valid term. Organic and natural. These two are heavily used in the cleaning industry, but may be confusing unless they are backed up test results, standards, or other factual evidence. So this has been a great time of an overview of our discussion. We talked about health-focused cleaning. So part of what we went over, we discussed and we reviewed how key methods and technologies can target the best process and practices in cleaning high-touch areas to reduce the spread of germs and allergens and minimize health risk for students and staff. And when I look at that, and that one word that sticks out to me is the best. So when you're looking at the best, you're going to have to do some research to see what is the best for the area that you are servicing, which means that you may need to do some research. You may need to do some networking. You may need to go to some, different industry best programs, like some shows like the ISSA show, or read the Clean Link magazine, where you're getting this information that's going to give you some of the best processes and practices. Attending different webcasts like this, where we can have an open discussion as to, what are some of the things that have been researched that are going to give us those best processes and practices that have been proven, like in our school district. We are doing great with that area. We partner, with the administrators of the schools. We partner with the attendance registrars, and we have partnered with their nursing staff and the health and safety staff. So that way, when we do start having a problem, we are on top of it. We don't wait until it becomes a big problem. We try to be very proactive, so then that when we hear something, we're on top of it. But in the beginning, we really, and I will have to say my team does a great job with, following, their practices and the standards, that have been set. So that way that we're not having those big outbreaks. And then the indoor air quality improvement. We talked about strategies like power ventilation, air filtration, how it can enhance indoor air quality, combat respiratory issues and absenteeism, and promote a healthier school atmosphere. We all know that there's probably a good handful of people that suffer from upper respiratory diseases. We don't have a list of those people. We don't get a list of the students. We don't get a list of anybody that may have other, illnesses, that we're targeting that particular illness. So we treat everything as if we need to ensure that we're using the best practices and that we're using our HEPA filters, that we're using the right disinfectants, that we're doing the things to increase indoor air quality. If we see mold, that we're contacting the right person to, come and test it, come and check it, to see what it is that we need to, while it's small, before it gets really large. And then sustainable cleaning practices. That is important has to be important to all of us because we want to live in an environment that it is sustainable, that it's somewhere 20 years from now, 30 years from now, that our children and our grandchildren and our family are going to still be able to live, within this community because we've done the best that we can with the practices and the products and things that we're utilizing, to protect the health of others. I learned in a class one time, and what I try to, stress when I'm teaching is sometimes they'll ask, what do you do for a living? And so we have this thing where we're not custodians, okay? We're lifesavers. And so I try to reiterate that you're not just a custodian, you're a lifesaver. And this is one thing I think is extremely important is that we understand how essential we are as lifesavers. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it back over to Wendy. And I do thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Sharon. This has been a great overview, a wonderful presentation. I particularly appreciated the time you took to put together the slide, really disseminating some of those sustainable, green, and non-toxic terms. I think it's great to have that all in one place. So for everybody on the call, remember the related content box underneath the lower quadrant of your screen is where you can access these slides and download them. Great reference materials today and beyond. So I have some questions coming in. I want to thank everybody. We have a few minutes for questions. And please just go ahead and find that Q&A tool on your screen, enter your question. And if we've got time, we're going to get to it. I'm going to jump right in. We have a question from Stephanie, and her question references what you were talking about, which was microfiber cleaning tools and microfiber cleaning cloths. There has been a question here about the possibility that they retain contamination through a wash cycle. So I'd love to go back and talk about how we can really assure ourselves that these microfiber cloths are cleaned accurately. It sounds like it's really a matter of making sure those manufacturer recommendations are followed, but I'd love to get your feedback on it.
Hi, Stephanie. Great question. I agree. Please read the manufacturer's directions. I think that is so important. And I even learned because I was actually one in the beginning that was like hot water, hot everything. Right. And someone had said something to me because I'm always open to hearing other person's opinions on, just learning from other people. And so they're like, Sharon, I don't think you're supposed to use hot water because it takes away basically the valuable use of the microfiber. And so when I read it, I'm like, oh, so when you launder it, there's a certain technique, certain type of soap, certain type of everything detergent that you're supposed to use. Even down to drying them, you are not supposed to dry them with hot water. So yes, when you're using them, follow the manufacturer's guidelines as to how to launder them, because we do actually launder them our own here on site. and we
Okay.
have trained personnel, and that's what they do. I have one person that goes out, and we have the laundering facilities downstairs in the building that I work, and that's what he does. He picks them up, he launders them, he dries them, folds them up, and delivers them back to the schools.
He can, I'll give him
Great
my address
question.
too, because I use microfiber at home. That's great information. And it is good sometimes, it actually tees up perfectly another question from Ronald. And he's looking for suggestions on getting employees to buy in on new methods. So that sounds like something you went through when you realized, oh, I've got to change how I'm looking at this laundering process. What kind of recommendation would you make to Ronald in terms of just the broader getting that buy-in and getting the employees to come on board with something new?
Ronald, we do a lot of networking within our department, and I include the employees as much as possible on any and everything just to make them important. A lot of times, if you make the employee or the person part of, they're going to buy into a little bit more. If they're on the outside looking in and they're not really part of maybe some kind of group or being able to just be when we're making decisions as to what we're going to use. Sometimes they just don't feel like they're part of. So we do a lot of that. I do a lot of training here in our school district. So I do my background is in human resources management, and I'm a trainer by trade. Everybody will tell you I'll walk around them and I find all kinds of trainable moments. But I try to engage the employees as much as possible. Now, am I going to sit here and say that I have 100%? Not at all. That I would be like a miracle person, but no. Sometimes and being honest, some employees are stuck in their ways and they just don't want to, go forward, especially with some of the new technology and the new things that are coming out.
Yeah.
And that's sort of kind of where I've got to, go a different way and say, hey, this is our practice, this is our standard, and this is the way that we do it here. So
Hmm.
yes, about 80% buy in, and that's just by involving them a little bit more. I do a newsletter, and so the newsletter actually will talk about new things that we're doing. If we have a new equipment that comes out, we invite new teams out, so that way they're learning hands on. Anything new that comes out, I try to send it out to the teams. They get to put it on their communication boards. And on the communication board, which is basically a bulletin board, like you see the teachers, we do it also in custodial. We have bulletin boards that we use for communication. And so we put it up on the board so everybody has access. I say the more that you can involve and engage, the more buy in. And then that other thing that sometimes we all have a hard time doing, listen, okay. And, sometimes you just got to listen, to your team to just see why are they not buying in,
Sure.
and then try and come up with the solution or the answer, for them, to
Hmm.
get that buy in. And I got to say, there's some things like the autonomous equipment it took me a long time to buy
Yeah.
into that, but now
Right.
I'm into it. So
I love that. I love the two
thank you,
sides of
Ronald.
it. Right. It's that process on both sides of the relationship. It's not just getting the training
Yes.
going, but it's hearing what they're responding to as you're, both working towards that goal of the task completion. That's interesting. We've got time for one or two more questions. One did come in right here, and we're going to ask from Stephanie. She's asking about those EPA category levels. Her question is, how much do decision makers pay attention to them? And they drive those precautionary statements. She says, do you end up considering those back of label cautions and warnings or lack thereof when choosing products? I know we talked a little bit about EPA earlier, but let's talk about the breadth and scope of some of those precautionary statements.
Stephanie, I think most definitely when you're the decision maker, you have a big responsibility to ensure that what it is that you say that you're doing, that you're going to do. So you have to do your research.
Yeah.
Look up the number. When you look on your SDS, you're going to have a number that's on there where you can look up the efficacy of that particular chemical. And so I would do the research because you don't want to use something and say that you're using something that is going to be beneficial and then it's not. The one thing you don't want to lose is trust. Okay, you've got to be able to keep the trust between you, the students' families, your administrators, the persons in the schools, that what it is that we say that we're doing, we're actually doing. So I do take it very seriously, and I do look it up when before I choose a chemical. If I don't have the time to do it, I use my vendor partners for that. So I'll ask them, please tell me the breakdown. What does it do? Give me some references. Tell me everything about this product. But I even go as far as to look it up on on the EPA register just to see, is that chemical there? What does it kill? What is the kill claim? Just because I'm in the buildings too. So not only do I want to be safe, but I also want, everybody else. And to me, nowadays, having that trust is a really big thing to me, as we're service providers. Getting back to really truly providing an honest service, like that used to be, back in the day when we used to go to the gas station and we'd have the person that pumped our gas and wiped our windows. They
Yeah.
provided a service and they were happy to provide that service. And I think we need to get back to being true service providers.
It's fantastic. And it's a perfect way to wrap up the webcast today, Sharon. That's all the time we have for questions today. But in light of that kind of closing statement, I want to let everybody know we can also catch Sharon later this month. She is one of our presenters at the Clean Buildings Conference in Baltimore. And your session is Managers as Mentors, Coaches, and Discipliners. And Sharon, before you came on, I was talking with the audience and sharing your recent education journey and your pursuit of this very area of study. I think it's going to be such a great fit. But if you'd like to give a quick recap on that session or anything else you'd like to share here, we'll go ahead and use that as part of our wrap up today.
Thank you so kindly, Wendy. So what I want to wrap up and say is when we're looking at doing our best, you've got to know yourself better than anybody else. Use your resources that are out there. Put training and development as one of your top things, not just training and development for your employees, but training and development for yourself. Speaking of myself very, very, very quickly, the reason I went back to school because I needed to be able to learn and to train better and to work with persons better. So hence, that's why I got my degree in human resources management. Subsequently, when I came on to the school system, I said, okay, we're moving in another direction. So I went back to school for my master's in organizational leadership. So look at what it is that you can do when you're looking at cleaning for health. Are there other practices? Are there things that you're not doing, that you could do better? Use your vendors, partners, just to help you out. Go to your nurses. They have a lot of information. And just use your resources that are around you to push yourself forward and never, ever, ever stop learning.
Well, I think everybody got a good head start on their learning journey today. I want to thank you again, Sharon, for just a fantastic presentation. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody on the call today for their time. And I also want to make sure to thank the sponsors of today's webcast, Torque and Optizolve. It really helps, your support really helps make events like this possible and lets us all continue our learning journey. Everyone, if you want a copy of those presentation slides, remember the related content module below is where you'll find them. And shortly, you will also receive an email with a link to a brief online assessment. You can complete that and receive your CEU certificate as well. We're going to archive the entire webcast at cleanlink.com/webcasts. You'll see that for the next day or so. Sharon, again, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you in Baltimore.
See you at the end of the month.
Sounds great.
Bye-bye.
And to everyone here today, thanks for being here. That concludes the webcast. Bye-bye.